Preacher saves injured Comanche boy as dawn reveals 100 riders approaching his church. The sun peeked over the Texas plains, casting gentle rays that danced across the tall grass like whispers of morning prayers. In the silence of dawn, a chilling cry shattered the tranquility, echoing across the stillness. Elijah, a kind-hearted preacher devoted to his small frontier community, felt a shudder grip his heart. He rushed outside his humble church, the worn wooden door creaking as if echoing his anxious thoughts. There, lying in the grass, was a Comanche boy, no older than 12. His dark hair was matted and stained, and his face was twisted in pain. Elijah's breath caught in his throat as he knelt beside the child. The boy winced at his touch, fear evident in his wide, haunted eyes. Elijah's heart ached for this little soul, alone and hurt, abandoned by a world consumed by suspicion. But as his hands moved deftly to assess the injuries, a heavy cloud edged over the horizon. A rumble grew in the distance, hooves pounding against the earth, a collective thunder that made the ground tremor. Elijah glanced up, dread pooling in his stomach. 100 Comanche riders, fierce and wild, flew over the plains like a storm about to strike. Their war paint glimmered bright against the morning light, a stark reminder of their intent. Elijah's thoughts raced. Keeping the boy safe while guaranteeing peace seemed impossible. Giving sanctuary to this child could ignite a firestorm among the settlers who viewed Native Americans as little more than a threat. He squeezed his eyes shut for a brief moment, as if by shutting out the sun he could block out the urgency of the situation. "Please, help me," the boy whispered, his voice barely above a breath. The desperation in his eyes was raw, gripping Elijah's heart tight. He nodded, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. He began tearing strips from his own shirt to dress the boy's wounds, each movement filled with determination. But in caring for this injured boy, Elijah uncovered a deeper truth. As he wrapped the cloth around the boy's leg, whispered shadows of recognition flickered in his memory. This child was more than just a victim. His fate was tied to a great warrior, one who had once saved Elijah from a soundless ambush just months before. Memories flooded back, the warrior's fierce eyes, the courage that had brought peace when violence seemed inevitable. The boy's connection to that story tugged at Elijah, giving him hope amid the brewing storm. Could this child be the key to ending hostility between his community and the Comanche? Questions spiraled in his mind. How could he protect the boy without igniting a fierce conflict that might destroy everything he held dear? The thunder of galloping hooves drew closer, urgency clawing at his chest. As Elijah prepared to face the riders, his heart raced with fear and determination. He stood at the brink of an impossible choice, knowing that the sun's climb mirrored the rising tension around him. Hey, before continuing with this incredible story, I have to warn you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Quickly check that red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's about to drop. And while you're here, give me a big thumbs up. That really helps with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting every amazing person who's part of this community. Your support means everything. Let's stay connected. Elijah stood frozen, the thundering hooves hurtling closer like a nightmare taking shape. He felt the weight of the boy in his hands, the palpable fear in the air choking him. Could he really protect this child? The rising sun cast morning shadows, long and ominous, while his heart thundered in tune with the approaching riders. The boy clenched his small fists, breathing heavily through pain. "Please, don't let them hurt me." Elijah pressed a cloth against the boy's wound, trying to soothe both their fears. But outside, the riders were a near storm, a wild, swirling mass of strength and fury. The sun turned the war paint on their faces into fiery streaks, making them seem otherworldly, terrifying. "Stay here," Elvis whispered, heart pounding. He rose, breath shallow, taking one step toward the church door. He had to stall them, buy some time. Perhaps they would hear reason. Perhaps he could convince them to leave the boy be. But as he opened the door, he caught sight of the riders. Their eyes flicked toward him, sharp, accusing, searching. And then he saw her. Standing at the front of the horde was a woman, her long dark hair streaming behind her like a flag. The last glow of morning light caught on her face, revealing familiar features that sent a chill down his spine. He recognized her, and the nausea rose in his throat. It was Noemi, the warrior he had known, the warrior who had once saved his life in an unexpected ambush. But the shock spread deeper. In that moment, he saw the truth in her fierce gaze. Below the shimmering surface of her valor lay a churning darkness, a secret that felt like a lightning strike through his very being. Suddenly, he recalled the stories murmured among the settlers, whispers of betrayal, of blood ties and vengeance unspooled across generations. And then, everything shattered. With a guttural shout, Noemi pointed directly at the boy lying in the grass. "He is mine!" Her voice sliced through the air, cutting deep enough to silence the wind. The crowd of riders halted, a palpable tension crackling between them and the settlers. Elijah's heart raced. "No, he's just a child!" The cry burst from him before he could think it through. The boy stirred, eyes wide, caught between worlds. But Noemi's gaze never wavered. It was a burning fire. "You do not understand," she spat, advancing upon him. "He carries the blood of a hunter. You think you can save him? You think he's safe here?" With each word, chaos coiled tighter around them. The settlers watched, faces a mix of anger and fear, confusion igniting like dry kindling. Elijah felt his breath hitch, reality spinning out of control. The boy had been brought to him for protection, yet his lineage was a spark that could ignite a war more ferocious than he ever imagined. Could he truly protect him? The silence felt heavy with accusation. Was the sacrifice of this child worth the peace Elijah sought to uphold? How had a morning of hope twisted into a moment poised on the brink of a clash? The urgency thundered in his chest, and as tensions mounted, he wondered, what had he truly tied himself to that day? The ground trembled beneath the riders as they stamped impatiently, waiting for decisions and blood. And as the dawn's promise faded, whispering shadows of betrayal danced beneath the surface, leaving Elijah at a precipice where lives would change forever. Elijah stood paralyzed, the storm of riders poised at the edge of reason. The air was thick with the tension of unmade decisions. Noemi's shout echoed in his ears, her fierce gaze a dagger aimed at the boy, at him. He thought of the settlers, of the hatred that twisted in their hearts, ready to explode. And then he heard it, a sharp crack, like thunder, but it sliced through the morning calm in a different way. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Look out!" Elijah turned just as the figure emerged from the brush at the side of the church. His heart did a lurch. There stood Mary, the widow of the settler who had been killed in a skirmish months ago. Her face was twisted in raw, unfiltered grief, and in her hand was a rifle. She raised it, aiming straight toward Noemi. "You'll pay for what you did!" Time seemed to slow. Elijah wanted to scream, to run, to throw himself in front of Noemi. Fear gripped his heart at the thought of bloodshed, at the idea of violence erupting from a simple moment of confrontation. "Mary, no!" he shouted, but the word was lost, drowned out by the chaos that followed. As if in response to his call, Mary squeezed the trigger. The gunshot rang like a bell, startling the birds from the sky, a horrific sound that froze even the heart of the storm of riders. Noemi, caught unaware, spun toward the noise, her eyes wide. The bullet flew true, and the atmosphere shifted from tension to horror as it struck the boy. Time jolted back to reality as the child crumpled to the ground, a gasp escaping his lips. "No!" Elijah's scream was raw, ripping from his throat, filled with a pain that echoed through every soul there. He rushed toward the boy, body moving before the mind could catch up. Noemi screamed, "Him!" The words fell heavy, a weight of betrayal unfurling in the radiant dawn. "You shot him! He is innocent!" Her voice turned feral, eyes blazing with a mix of grief and fury, tearing the air as she raced towards the fallen child. Elijah knelt in the grass beside the boy, heart pounding, panic overwhelming. The child lay there, his body twisting in agonizing pain, blood pooling beneath him. Elijah pressed his hands down, trying to apply pressure to stave off the dark tide of injury that now surged at their feet. He looked up, frantic. "Someone help! We need a doctor!" The riders shifted uneasily, the tension morphing, overwhelming fear replacing the wild anger that had driven them there. Mary didn't lower her rifle. Her eyes were wild, scanning the transformation. "He deserved it!" she shrieked, her own anger igniting. "They took everything from us!" "No!" Elijah shouted back, his heart aching for the boy, for Noemi, for the fire ignited by ignorance and hatred. "This child is not the war. He is just a boy!" But as he clasped the child's small hand, a hush descended. Within that fragile silence, a stunned realization began to ripple through the onlookers, the whisper of something unspoken. Noemi reached the child first, kneeling beside him, eyes filled with both vengeance and horror. Her hand touched his cheek, and for a moment their connection flared with a shared understanding. "His name is Chemo," she whispered, voice breaking, "and he is not just the blood of a warrior. He is my son." Gasps erupted from the settlers like a fire caught in the wind. Elijah's heart tore as the implications washed over him. Noemi had risked everything for her child, and here, in his moment of despair, love had driven them into chaos. Suddenly, the ground felt unsteady beneath Elijah. Questions churned in his mind. Could he save them all? Would the settler see Chemo as a child deserving of compassion? Or would this revelation ignite an even fiercer fury in their hearts? A choice loomed larger than life, crackling in the air like static electricity. With his world spinning, Elijah looked at Noemi, at the boy, and at the faces of the settlers, each one a thread in a tapestry woven of anger and hope. Where would this twisted truth lead them? What terrible price would they all pay for this tangled web of lives? The morning sun hung high, illuminating their faces, revealing every hidden truth, while Elijah felt the weight of the world crushing down around him, uncertain of what was to come next. Elijah knelt there, still gripping the boy's hand, the weight of the moment pressing on him like a stone. Noemi's gaze flared with disbelief and fury as she touched Chemo's face, but time slowed, taut with the tension spiraling around them. The air was thick, charged with uncertainty. "Why?" Noemi's voice trembled, laced with desperation. "Why would you shoot him?" Her heart was shattered, and every word felt like a dagger thrown with rage and sorrow. Mary's grip tightened around the rifle, her chest heaving. "You don't know what he is. You don't know what he brings." The crowd murmured, their faces shadows of anger and confusion. Elijah felt his pulse racing. "This is a child. You can't blame him for the sins of the past." His words echoed, a plea floating in the chaos, desperately trying to mend a chasm threatening to swallow them all. And then, like the breaking of a dam, the truth erupted out of the shadows, unraveling everything in its wake. A man stepped forward from the riders, his face hidden beneath the brim of a broad hat, yet familiarity pulsed through Elijah's memory. He lifted his head, The sun caught the gleam of a silver trinket around his neck, a pendant that glinted with a symbol Elijah recognized too well. "Liam?" Elijah's voice softened, pain slicing through the shock. Liam, a former friend turned settler, turned something darker, stepped into the light, confidence radiating from him as he fixed his eyes on Chemo. "What are you doing here?" "I came to reclaim what is rightfully ours," Liam announced, each word heavy with a chilling certainty. "Chemo carries the blood of warriors. His fate has always been tied to ours." He surveyed the scene, a predatory glint in his eyes. "He belongs with me, with us." The crowd shifted uneasily, whispers slicing through the sounds of the morning. Elijah's heart sank. "What do you mean?" he demanded, panic and confusion knitting tighter around him. Noemi wheeled towards Liam, fury igniting anew. "You don't have claim to my boy!" Her voice rang out, raw with pain. Liam's smirk widened, cruel and knowing. "He is the key to our future, Noemi. The child you've hidden away holds secrets that could unite our people or break them apart." He glanced toward the settlers. "You all see him as a threat, don't you? But while you remain blinded by fear, he has the blood that can lead us to power." Tension crackled across the field like dark lightning. Faces turned toward Chemo, eyes searching, calculating, fears ignited. The simple truth of a boy's innocence twisted in the chaotic narrative spinning out of control. Elijah's world tilted again, thoughts racing. Trust shattered and loyalties in question. "What does that mean?" he pressed, his voice shaking. "What will you do if you don't get what you want?" Before Liam could answer, Chemo's voice broke through, fragile and bewildered. "I just want to go home." It was a whisper swallowed by the fierce winds around them. Elijah's heart ached for the boy, for the path ahead getting murkier by the second. But just then, a fierce shout erupted from somewhere behind the riders. "Wait!" A figure burst through the mass, a flash of color against the dust. It was an older woman, her gray hair wild and face lined with years of hardship. "Stop!" she cried, raising a hand, urgency etched in her features. Elijah recognized her, Martha, a matriarch from the settlement. Her connection to the community was beyond question, but her presence here was unexpected. "I have something to say," she continued, breathless as she approached. "You don't understand the whole story." Everything stilled, the air growing charged with anticipation. What could she possibly hold that would change it all? Elijah's breath caught as she locked eyes with him and then shifted her fierce gaze toward Liam. "You think you know who Chemo is, but you're wrong. His blood runs deeper than you could ever imagine." A gasp rippled through the crowd, confusion swirled. Elijah's heart pounded louder than the thundering hooves, realization dawning like a nascent storm. What truth had long been hidden, shackled in the shadows? In that moment, with all eyes fixed on her, a new tension unfurled, a fresh layer of uncertainty coating every heartbeat. Each face watched with bated breath. What devastating twist awaited? What secrets would tear their world apart, unraveling loyalty and kinship? The sun hung high, but the darkness of revelation felt palpable, a weight pulling them all toward an unknown edge. As Martha prepared to speak the words that could change everything, Elijah felt a grim sense of doom. The dawn could not hold back the tide now. Elijah held his breath, every heartbeat shaking him as Martha stood before the crowd, wild-eyed and breathless. "What do you know?" he urged, clinging to hope. "Please, tell us." Martha's voice rose, tense and urgent. "You think this is just about Chemo? You're wrong. There's a legacy, a history you don't understand." Her gaze darted between Noemi, Elijah, and the settlers, desperation etched on her face. "Chemo is tied to more than just blood. His lineage connects with the very roots of our conflict. The murmurs whipped up into a storm. The settlers shifted, confusion writ large across their faces. But then, with a crack like thunder, the world changed. From behind Martha, a figure emerged, a man cloaked in dusty leather, his presence cutting through the crowd like a jagged knife. "Enough!" he shouted, and his voice boomed deep and primal, silencing every whisper, every heartbeat. It was Jonas, the old tribal chief, a man once thought lost to time, believed to have been taken in a raid years ago. His return sent shockwaves through the settlers. "What do you want?" Liam's tone dripped with disdain as he stepped forward. Jonas didn't take his eyes off Chemo, lying on the ground. "I want to take my rightful place." His voice rang with authority, firm as granite. Chemo is a child of both worlds, Comanche and settler. He is the bridge between our people. And you, he pointed at Mary, her rifle still raised. You dare threaten his life? Cold fear enveloped Elijah. This wasn't just a family drama. This was territory poised for war. "What do you want from us?" Elijah whispered, as dread knotted in his stomach. Jonas's eyes never wavered. "Peace, but it starts with the truth, all of it." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a softer, raspy tone. "Long ago, a pact was made between ancestors, united lands, united blood. Chemo is the key to bring that reunion back, to heal the wounds." Gasps echoed through the crowd, a wave of disbelief cascading among them. "You're saying?" Martha stammered. "Yes," Jonas nodded solemnly. "But there is more. The betrayal that started this war runs deeper. Many of you think it's about land, but it's about Chemo's mother." The air thickened with shock. "What?" Noemi screeched, her heart racing. "My mother?" Jonas's gaze bore into her. She was not merely an innocent victim. The bloodlines were intertwined in a way that can reshape this land's future and its past. Elijah's heart pounded in his ears. "I don't understand. What are you saying?" Jonas turned toward the settlers, his voice steady, commanding respect. "The truth is that Chemo's mother was a leader among the tribes, but she was also partly of your blood. The settlers who hunted her saw her as a monster, but she was trying to unite, not divide." The crowd erupted, faces painted with fear and confusion, accusations flying like arrows. "You're lying! Traitor! Betrayer!" But Jonas's eyes gleamed defiantly. "The history of all this violence has been hidden, twisted, and used for hate. If you kill this boy, you'll kill the last chance for peace. This is your legacy, not bloodshed, but unity." A dark cloud descended, confusion swirling into a hurricane of panic. And then, as the reality of Jonas's words sank in, a shot rang out, crisp, loud, and deafening. A bullet flew through the air, a second firearms crack. Elijah didn't know where it came from, but felt it resonate through his body like an earthquake, shaking everything he believed. The crowd froze, and a collective gasp rose up. Then chaos erupted. Elijah's heart stopped as he turned, seeking the source of the sudden violence, knowing that relationships, truths, and legacies were about to shatter. In that moment, with the weight of centuries bearing down, everything he'd known was at the brink of collapse. One shot could change it all. Relationships, history, and Chemo's very future hung in the balance. What had just been unleashed? Who would stand to bear the consequences? The dawn was still bright above, but a shadow loomed beneath it, threatening to consume them all.